Kennis geskep hiermee van 'n spesiale raadsvergadering van Kaap-Agulhas munisipaliteit wat fisies binne in die munisipale raadsaal gehou word vandag 7 Junie 2022 om 1400 uur. Notice is hereby given of a special council meeting of Kaap-Agulhas municipality which is being held in the municipal council chambers today, Tuesday the 7th of June 2022 at 2 o'clock. Thank you, Speaker.
Thanks, MM. Collega's, dames en heren wat van buite af ingeskakel het of ingeskakel is, hartlike welkom by hierdie baie belangrike vergadering. Voor ons enigstens begin, burgemeester, sal jy vir ons open met gebed asseblief?
Baie dankie, Spreker. Ek doen dit met graagte. Hulle sit ons oë buig, ons oë toemaak en ons hoofde buig. Dierbare God, Hemelse Vader, Here, baie dankie vir hierdie wonderlike geleentheid om U naam aan te roep, om U naam groot te maak, om alle lof en eer en dank aan U te bring in hierdie middaguur. Dus dankie, Hemelse Vader, Here, vir hierdie geleentheid wat ons het om, Here, met mekaar te praat. Dankie, Here, dat U vir ons so ver deur hierdie dag gebring het, dat U vir ons opgewek het, almal wat van hierdie vertrek is, Here, om ons dagtake te kan hervat. Ons dra aan hulle op, Here, elkeen in ons gemeenskap, hulle wat, Here, op hierdie oomblik hartseer is, hulle wat 'n geliefde aan die dood moes afgee, hulle wat, Here, gehoor het van 'n familielid of 'n gesinslid, 'n vriend, vriendin, wat baie siek is. Wil vra, Here, dat U deur U grootheid in elke huishouding in Kaap-Agulhas vertoef. U ken, Here, die omstandighede, U ken die pyn en die lyding, maar U ken ook die vreugde van elkeen van ons. Bid dat U, Here, in besonder met ons sal wees, wanneer ons dan ons begroting aan die gemeenskap voorlê, vir die raad om dit te debatteer en besluit daaroor te neem. En ek bid vir leierskap in ons land, vir ons president en sy kabinet, elke premier en elke provinsie wat deel is van hierdie puzzle om Suid-Afrika te laat werk. Bid vir al die uitdagings hier op ons paaie, veral in plaaslike regering, nasionaal en provinsiaal, dat U, Here, vir ons sal leiers gee om ons gemeente, ons inwoners te lei na 'n beter samelewing. Daar is soveel uitdagings in ons lewens, soveel probleme op ons paaie. Ek bid dat, Here, dat U vir ons in besonder hier in Kaap-Agulhas, elke raadslid, elke amptenaar, Here, sal omgord, dat U, ek seën elkeen wat vanmiddag ingekom het. Bid vir elkeen vir wysheid en sterkte. Ons bid dit en ons vra dit in Jesus naam. Amen.
Baie dankie, burgemeester. Punt nommer 2, aansoeke om verlof tot afwesigheid, applications for leave. Ons is voltallig, so niemand kon van die raad uit nie hier wees nie. Maar daar agter het ek 'n hand gesien.
En Speaker Abdulaziz is met 'n verskoning. Ek is hier so in sy.
Baie dankie meneer De Tooy. Ons neem kennis daarvan. Baie dankie vir almal wat betyds was, stiptelik was. Verklarings en of mededelings deur die voorsitter. Ek het net een wat ek net graag aan julle aandag wil bring, en dit is donderdag die 9de Junie om 13:30 in die Glaskasteel is julle genooi as raadslede om die Kaap-Agulhas Asset Care Journey and Signing of the Asset Care Pledge by te woon. Vir diegene van julle wat dit nog nie gedagboek het nie. Dis al onder daai punt. Punt nommer 4, final budget for the 2022-2023 medium term budget financial year. En ek gee oor dadelik aan die CFO. Sal jy vir ons daardeur stap asseblief, Hannes?
Thank you, Speaker, Councillors. I think we all have received the budget document, and I think we had also a workshop yesterday where we further look into all the comments and input from the public and other stakeholders, as well as from Provincial Treasury, relating to the draft budget what was submitted in March. And I think the Act is quite clear that the Mayor have to consider which of those inputs can be accommodated in the budget or might already be included in the budget, whether under the operating and or the capital side of it. So we workshopped that and we went through the document. And then also what we did in that workshop was to look at the changes, from the draft budget submitted and the reasoning for those changes up to the final budget document has been tabled today in front of Council. But I just want to say, if we just read in the newspapers over the weekend, the financial sustainability assessment from Ratings Africa, who normally assess municipalities countrywide, then we can see there are numerous challenges local government is facing, and we're not excluded from that. Although I think we still try our utmost to adhere to our mandate, and that is to provide basic services in a sustainable manner. And obvious to maintain that you have to put controls and sound financial administration and also project management, that everything that go along with that to ensure that we can deliver. So it's quite important, that we note those things, and also still the economic circumstances out there, we can see the dark cloud, and hopefully, we will get to a situation where things can start to normalize. So we're under tremendous pressure. We realize that, and I think we need to utilize our resources according to that. We have to do more with less, and that is a fact. It's not something that we can argue about. So I'm not really going into too much detail. I will maybe just reflect. I think the budget was, like I've indicated, distributed amongst all councillors. And I think in terms of the requirement is for council to consider the budget. There are 10 tables, of which the first one is an executive summary of the revenue, the expenditure, the balance sheet, cash flow on one page. That is according to the schedules we submit, referred to as table 1. Then we have the budgeted financial performance. That is your revenue expenditure. As per the National Treasury classification, it's slightly different from the municipality. And then we also have a table, A3, that have reference to the municipal vote structure that can differ from those on Treasury. Then we also, in table A4, we have a detailed financial budget performance statement of the revenue and expenditure side. Table A5 is actually the capital expenditure. Then table 6 have reference to the financial position of the municipality. And then also table 7, cash flow. Table 8 have reference to the cash back reserves. And I can just mention here, each one of the pre-requirements, for this budget to succeed is that council have to approve, a funded budget, which I can state according to what we submitted today, it's actually a funded budget. And then also you have a breakdown in terms of your asset management, existing assets, replacement of assets, upgrading of assets, and also new assets per asset category. That also tied up to the way how we have budgeted up to that amount. And then the last one is actually just to reflect on some of the ratios in terms of the basic salary. So if I can just, in terms of the report, maybe just refer council then to section 1.10, that is the annual budget tables. That is on page 34 of the budget report. So I can maybe just mention our total operating budget, for the coming 22-23 budget year is estimated at 417 million rand. Our projected expenditure estimates is 409,000, which leave us actually with a surplus of 8 million. And then if you add the capital transfers and contributions, that is normally your capital contributions in terms of grants, public contributions we receive, then the net surplus deficit that reflecting is 39 million rand in respect of the 22-23 budget. And if we just look at the outer years, it's also reflecting a surplus of 5.107 million and 14 million for the 2 outer years. Then if one look at our capital expenditure, the total capital expenditure we envisage is actually 70.61 million. I think it is actually one of the bigger capital projects since I'm started here at this municipality, where we started at 25 million, 35 million, which is normally our capacity. And for the past 2 years, we're performing at 50, 60 million and even 70 million rand right now. I can just mention the bulk of the funding is actually from grants. It's almost 28 million we will receive in the form of grants. Then from borrowing, there's 19 million, and I think that was part of our strategy long term to accelerate our capital expenditure and also to make use of the capacity of the municipality to have a funding mix. And that also making a contribution of 19 million for the 22-23 budget year. And then also from our internally generated funds is an estimated amount of 23 million, what we will utilize. If one look at the budget per se, in terms of the detailed budget, when we come to that, you can see from our revenue resources, our biggest contributors, it's the electricity portion. It's just about 40% of our total revenue budget. And then in the second place is our property rates. That is just slightly under 20% at 19.54% on 81 million rand. Then if we go to our biggest cost drivers in terms of our expenditure, yes, it's true. Our employee-rated cost, it's still a challenge to the municipality, and I know we have already started the process to see how we can actually try to curb or to reduce those costs. It's not always that easy. We directed and guided in terms of legislation, the bargaining council agreements. So there's a lot of things that impact on that. But I think we have already started a process, and I think even through our strategic session with council now as a directive for the next 5 years, surely I think we will have to dig a little deeper, more aggressively in order to correct that or to change that, or in terms of the way how we account for it when we're looking at that. So that one is at 41% of our total budget, and I think the norm from Treasury side is up to 40%, which between 32 to 40%. So we definitely not, in terms of our performance there, we're not really performing good, and we will have to correct it. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's just the way we actually account for it, or maybe in terms of, not that I'm saying that we just need to outsource, but when you're looking at our grants or contractors, appointment of contractors in terms of the guideline, we're still within the norm there, so whether you do it from outsourced services, whether internal, it's important to look at. But I think also what is important in that amount, it includes everything, sometimes, and I think the norm is a measurement to say, yes, we have to look into this. But, there are also, I will not say unfunded mandate included into this, on the library services. There's a portion that reflect on salaries. We definitely need to look into, and I think it's already part of some of our strategy when some of those temporary agreements will come to an end, which we negotiated about 3 years ago, where they gave us actually insurance that it will fund, but now it's not funded anymore. We're also looking at the housing unit, although yes, we don't receive any funding for that, and it's not a municipal function. So those are kind of things that's included into this, even your contributions to your medical aid, post-retirement, although it's a non-cash item, it's included as part of all of these things, and even your contribution to leave and all of that. So I think it's important to note it, but we're not really ignoring this. We know it's something that we need to address, because that really put the municipality maybe at risk in terms of our financial sustainability. Then also, I think the other one, biggest cost driver is the Eskom, and I know it's not that we can do something about it. We try to really minimize the impact, but unfortunately, we're not really in control where you have increases above the inflation rate, far more than the inflation rate. And I think we just need to maybe to look at ways and means to be more efficient in terms of how we distribute our electricity, minimize our electricity losses, although it's already on a very low minimum, if not the lowest in the country, where we right now just above 5, close to 6%. But those are the kind of things that we need to look into and to see what we can still do to ensure that it don't have that much of an impact. So those are the biggest things, but I think what I mentioned, in terms of the municipalities' mandate is to provide basic services. And I think if you look in terms of our operating budget, almost 50% is directed towards the trading services infrastructure. And if you assess our capital, I think it's close to 90%. So it is a clear indication, yes, we know where to put our emphasis. And I think in terms of the recent assessment by Provincial Treasury, in terms of the SAI meetings we had on the feedback on the budget, you could clearly see we amongst the top of 1 or 2 top performing municipalities, when it comes to capital expenditure, the way we do it, and also how we what amount of money we put into maintaining our assets. I think we one of the smaller municipalities, but I think we perform under the top 2 or 3 in the province, and of which most of those municipalities are under the top 20 performing municipalities. So it's important that we keep up with that. And I think also part of this to ensure this is a budget estimate, but we have to make sure that we can sustain it and that we can implement this budget. Surely we will have to look at our debt collection. I know it's a very sensitive point from council, from the mayor specific, that driving that process, and that we keep up with the current rate of collection, be close to 98%, but we will try to keep it above the 96% in order for the municipality to be sustainable. So, Mr. Speaker, yeah, I think that is all those tables, it's actually part from page 34 of the report, I think up to page 43. And those are all the tables, for council to consider approval as the final budget.
Thank you, CFO. Any questions? And I see a hand.
Explain to the public the decision about NASA and the electricity percentage increases that are going to affect the man in the street or the man in the dark.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I think through you, Mr. Speaker, when we submitted the draft budget, NERSA, nobody really could give us a clear indication what will be the impact or what's the guideline increase. I think what we did at that stage was based our information from Provincial Treasury, the budget circular guidelines, which was about 9.64%. And that is actually the way how we budgeted for that when we submitted the draft budget. However, afterwards, NERSA 8.61%, and our revenue will increase by 7, or what we allowed revenue to increase is 7.67%. The impact of that, the lower percentage, which we originally included in the budget at almost the impact of 3 million less revenue that we will have to record it. And if one look at the adopted budget, you could clearly see the surplus that was submitted at that time was almost 14 million. And then I think it dropped down just to about 8 million, of which that factor alone have the biggest impact. Then there was also technical things from provincial treasury, the way how we need to account for our water. That is basically now through inventory that had an impact even on our, although it's not a cash item, but it was also in terms of our debt impairment. Initially our calculation was on a 96% based on the long-term financial plan, but they make reference to say, but wow, you're actually collecting more, 98%, full debt impairment portion as well. And then there were one or two things, yes, we included in the budget, although we had applied spatial development framework, which is almost R1 million. The moment we will restate of the long-term financial plan, that is actually also aligned to the new strategy of council, the SDF, all of those sector plans speaking to the same language and the way how we will go about it. So those are the things which we had to include, but there is a probability that the Development Bank already indicated to us that they will fund both those two sector plans, as well as an application by the Director Technical Services, in terms of a 10-year capital plan, taking into consideration our current infrastructure maintenance plans for water, electricity, roads, to have a proper way in the way how we will budget for that, aligned to a long-term, planning, forecast, and all of that, what we can afford, not afford, to bring all those three plans together as a key strategic document and direction for the municipality for the next 5 years. So those were some of the key amendments to the draft budget which was submitted up till now. The impact of the NERSA, or the impact one, we're still awaiting final approval of that tariff, but at least it had a positive impact on the consumer as well, where we initially had increases close to 9%. It dropped now to 6.7%, 6.9%. So we definitely have an impact on the consumer account, which the consumers will eventually receive going into the new financial year.
Wil jy enige ander vrae of insette of?
Eerstens wil ek net sê dankie vir die geleentheid wat ons daarom gister gekry het om te kyk na die insette van die publiek daar buite. Maar ek en natuurlik ook my party is natuurlik bitter teleurgestel in hierdie gedeelte van die begroting. Omrede ons het dit mense kan amper sê 'n paar uur gekry voor die verkiesing, voor die begroting vandag. En ek wil regtig waar 'n beroep doen dat dit nie weer sal gebeur nie. Jy weet, daar is soveel behoeftes daar buitekant. Jy weet, ons het Imbizo's gehou reg oor Kaapagullis en daar was baie insette gegee by die Imbizo's. En ons weet ook, ons as raadslede weet ook, die raad het net 'n sekere getal geld, begroting wat hy kan spandeer. Maar as jy ook sien hoe dit gespandeer word, ek meen, dan is dit skokkend. Ek meen, as ek het nou nie presies seker nie, ek wil ook hê die CFO moet nou gaan opkyk, hoeveel van die begroting wat nie uit grants bestaan nie, word spandeer in voorheen benadeelde gemeenskappe. Jy weet, ons is hier om voorheen benadeelde gemeenskappe te diens. Ons is hier om die hele Kaap-Agulhas te diens. Maar om te sien na 27 jaar in 'n nuwe demokrasie, hoe lyk Kaap-Agulhas se begroting? Jy weet, as jy vat, in hierdie begroting is daar byvoorbeeld R500,000 vir die opgradering van sypaadjies. En jy kyk waar dit gedoen word, dit is waar daar groot behoeftes is in wijk 6. Maar die oudste gedeelte in Bedaarsdorp, wat insluit Williersstraat, Newmanstraat, Brandstraat en Golfstraat, wat al ons ou mense lewe, wat gebore is op hierdie dorp, en wat nooit die voorreg sal hê om 'n teer of 'n geplaveide sypaadjie te sien nie, is regtig skokkend na soveel jaar. Ek wil ook natuurlik die departement, vir al die ingenieursdepartement gelukwens met die MIC fondse wat hulle gebruik om daardie opgradering te doen, daar waar dit so noodsaaklik, as ons vat, daar waar die R500,000 gespandeer word, is regtig wonderlik, daar in Afrikaland. En ek wil nou aansluit by Vermilpark en Parkview. Jy weet, daai arme mense, daar is nou nuwe uitbreidings, maar hulle kan nie in hulle huise ingaan as dit reën nie. Matte moet hulle glad nie in hulle huise hê, en hulle al daai modder en goed. As 'n mens net daardie verskil kan maak, en daardie Droë Rivier, as ek moet vir die raadslede vra, hoe lyk die Droë Rivier hier, en hoe lyk dit daaronder? Die sloot wat hier verbyloop is die Droë Rivier. Hierdie water gaan daarbo vanaf regdeur tot in die Droë Rivier. En kyk hoe lyk dit daaronder. As ons net daai klein goedertjies 'n verandering in die voorheen benadeelde gemeenskappe van ons net daai kan doen, om net dit gaan ons gemeenskappe se lewensstandaard soveel verhoog. Maar ons praat ons blou, en dit was genoem by elke vergadering, Imbizo vergadering so goed. So regtig waar mense, ons sal regtig waar 'n verandering moet bring. Jy weet, die hoofdoel soos die CFO gesê het, vir 'n plaaslike owerheid is dienslewering, en ek kan die raad komplimenteer aan my. Alhoewel dit begin net onbekostigbaar raak vir die mense daar buitekant. Wil ek vir u sê, dit is regtig waar teleurstellend dat daar so min gedoen word. En ek praat nie van Bedaarsdorp, ek praat van Wannieskraal, Struisbaai, Klipdale, daai plekke wat hulle kry absoluut bitter min, of so te sê glad niks uit hierdie begroting nie. So mense, ons moet definitief van siening verander, aangesien ons al so lank in 'n nuwe demokrasie is. Ek wil ek wil sien dat ons die beste munisipaliteit is wat dienslewerings betref. Ons het al 'n stukkie, die beste munisipaliteit wat finansies betref. So baie dankie vir eers. Dankie.
Dankie raadsheer, burgemeester.
Baie dankie speaker. Eers vir my kan nog baie dankie vir al die insette wat van al die raadslede af gekom het in die voorbereidingsproses. Dit was nie 'n proses wat eergister begin het nie. Ons het 3-4 steringkomitees gehad, insette van alle raadslede gekry. Ons het die proses gehad waar ons die Imbizos gehad het en deurgegaan het na elke gemeenskap toe. Ons het al die insette gekry. En soos Hannes verduidelik het, dat van die insette van die gemeenskap is reeds geïnkorporeer of in die lopende of in die kapitaalbegroting of die bedryfsbegroting. En ons het ook beloof in Imbizos dat ons sal terugkom op enige platform om die gemeenskap te verduidelik wat van die insette word wat nie geakkommodeer kan word nie, wat ons vir hulle per platform sal verduidelik, en dit is die commitment wat ons vandag gee. Ons het ook in al die Imbizos verduidelik dat die 5 jaar IDP het tot 'n einde gekom van dit wat nog gedek moet word in die begrotings. was in 'n gemeenskap en die raad het die vorige IDP aanvaar as die huidige een en wat ons nou in die volgende paar maande sal uitgaan om die nuwe wenslys uit ons gemeenskappe uit te kry. Daar's nuwe wijkkomitees in elke gemeenskap, daar's nuwe raadslede in elke gemeenskap. En dit wat oor die algemeen, ek dink oor die 27, 28 jaar in Kaap-Agulhas plaasgevind het. Ek dink die spandering van Kaap-Agulhas was gedeel in al die gemeenskappe. As ons kyk na die insette uit gemeenskappe uit ons IDP vergaderings uit, en soos beloof dat ons in die volgende ronde van wanneer ons sal uitgaan na die gemeenskappe toe om die wenslys te kry vir die volgende paar jaar, dat ons mense aanmoedig, veral ons jeug en ons bejaardes, om te kom, want ons kan net begroot, soos reg wat Raadsias Jantjie sê, volgens die fondse wat ons het, en volgens insette in die IDP. So ons wil mense aanmoedig om te kom, om te sê vir ons, en daarvolgens moet ons elke jaar, jy weet, soos reconcilieer, wat ons gedoen in die vorige jaar, die begroting, en wat ons nog sal beoog in die volgende jaar. Oor die algemeen, voorsitter, glo ek, as burgemeester, die fondse word evenredig verdeel. Ons weet daar is baie uitdagings, in Kaap-Agulhas ook, in ons land, in die provinsie, wat die munisipaliteit nooit sal kan aanspreek nie. Maar soos ek ook gesê, daar's 'n ander, dat ons anders iets probeer om, soos ek gesê het in die strategiese sessie, dat ons as raad fokus en ons hoof fokus is op dienstelewering, wat Kaap-Agulhas regwaar gebring het tot verklaar deur Media24 as een van die top 2 munisipaliteite in die land, wat dienslewering betref. Maar soos ek al reeds gesê het en erken, dat ons kan dienste lewer tot die beste van ons vermoë, maar as ons as leierskap nie die kwessie rondom armoede aanspreek nie, net aanspreek en kyk hoe ons as raad en as leierskap, jy weet, 'n bydrae kan lewer en ook die privaat sektor kan innooi, want dit gaan hier, jy weet, ek kan nie slaap as my buurman honger ly nie, en dit is toch die aksies wat ons graag wil loods om dit aan te spreek rondom die veiligheids van ons gemeenskap, die entrepreneurs ontwikkeling wat ons al reeds baie aangespreek het in die afgelope paar jaar, en soos Hannes ook nou gesê het, jy weet, oor die afgelope paar jaar het ons kapitaalbegroting gegroei vanaf, ek meen 15 miljoen tot waar ons vandag staan 70 miljoen rand. En 'n 70 miljoen rand wat in ons areas gespandeer word. So daar is aspekte wat ek van weet. Jy weet, 'n paar rand word meer gespandeer op 'n pad, moontlik sê in Suiderstrand, maar wat ek ook al in die afgelope paar jaar verduidelik het al. As ons sekere areas nie aanspreek, dan gaan ons nie ontwikkelings kry nie. Ons moet ontwikkeling stimuleer, sodat werksgeleenthede gestimuleer kan word. So dit is die platform wat Kaap-Agulhas deur hierdie begroting wil vestig, deur die investering in ons kapitaalprojekte. Sy paadjies, daar is al 'n klomp goedes en baie keer daaroor gepraat, en dat ons ook kan kyk na ander maniere hoe ons sy paadjies, dit weet ons almal wat ons kan aanspreek, en wat ons aanspreek, maar ons het net soveel in die beursie wat ons kan spandeer. So van my kant baie dankie CFO, Sean en sy span, al die raadslede, al die amptenare vir julle insette, dat ons vandag kan kom om hierdie finale dokument te kan bespreek en te aanvaar. Baie dankie, spreker.
Jy is welkom, burgemeester. Raadslid.
Baie dankie, Speaker. Just for the sake of my constituency, I'm going to speak English. We've heard what the mayor has said, and also from our party and our constituency side is that also a little bit unhappy with the budget. The issue is the budget in BIZO is actually there for communities to give input, and we've received over 140 comments. And I definitely think that it will be an injustice if we don't take these into consideration. And it's our duty to make sure that these comments are reflected in the budget, Speaker, because there's a growing concern outside, there's a growing need. We feel that this budget doesn't address the issue of poverty in Kaap-Agulhas. It doesn't address actually the issue of creating an environment for job creation. It doesn't create an environment for entrepreneurship. Some of these things we've mentioned it before. So I think before we approve this budget, we really need to take into consideration that when we do the budget in Bezos, that it isn't just a tick box exercise to comply with legislation, Speaker, because there are people outside that attend these meetings. And if we're going to approve a budget today, and where the community has given their inputs, and they see that these inputs are not reflecting in the budget, then what's the point of having budget in Bezos at the end of the day? Then what's the point of bringing, you understand, these are the things that unfortunately we have to address. And we believe that this budget cannot just be decided in a corner somewhere, but it really has to be, has to go through the community. So I hope really that in future that we have more time to discuss the comments and we go through the comments and really look at the budget and does it reflect what people are saying. We do understand also what the mayor has said, that some of these are going to be addressed in the operational budget, but I think that it because there was not enough time where we could really engage these comments, and I definitely think we are also from our party and constituency side, we are a little bit unhappy with the time frame and the lack of inputs or the opportunity to give inputs and to address some of the comments that was given by the community. That is from our side. Thank you very much, Speaker.
You're welcome, sir. Wil jy nog iets bygevoeg het?
Baie dankie, Speaker. Eerstens wil ek sê van Wyk se kant af, dankie vir die R500,000 vir die sypaadjies. Maar wat kameraad Renier en raadslid Renier nou gesê het is, dat ons as die ANC is baie ontevrede oor die uitkom van dit, van die mense wat input gegee het tot die budget, of wat by die Bezos goed gesê het, daar is min van dit wat redig goedgekeur gaan word of wat hulle gaan kry. En ja, burgemeester, ek weet ons het die Bezos gedoen en dat mense uitgekom, hulle het hulle comments kom gee, maar die mense wil nie meer eers na die Bezos toe kom, jammer, want hulle voel of na vergaderings toe kom, want hulle voel 'n talkshows wat geran word. Hulle gee hulle input, maar niks gebeur nie. Ek verstaan alles te vorm en alles is geld aan verbonde wat net soveel is wat gebruik kan word. Maar daar is soveel baie dinge soos armoede dat word nie aangespreek nie, en daar so soos die skoonmaakprojek, ja, ek sien hulle maak nou en dan skoon, veral in Wyk 6 en daar, maar die droë rivier is my concern, en ek het al 'n week terug 'n e-mail gekry of wat, maar dat nog niks gebeur nie. So dit is wat ons praat en ons sê ding, maar ons doen dit nie. En die mense buite is ongelukkig daaroor. Dankie.
Dankie, raadslid. Enige ander kommentare?
Baie dankie, Speaker. Ek wil net op die stadium net weet hoeveel percentage van die comments en die inputs is ingekorporeer met die budget, soos wat ons nou praat.
Dankie meneer die Speaker. Ja, ek dink daar was 'n proses gewees. Al die insette wat kom, die riglyne is baie duidelik. Hy sê die burgemeester moet dit oorweeg of dit geakkommodeer kon word in die begroting, al dan nie. Van die aspekte wat daar is, kon ons akkommodeer, maar ek dink 'n baie sleutelbeginsel vir die begroting. Dit moet in jou IDP wees. Jy moet in 'n gedagte hou, en dis nie dat dit geïgnoreer word nie, maar ek dink die burgemeester het daarna verwys, dat in die gesprekvoering wat ons het, wat ons teruggaan na die gemeenskap toe, is dat baie van hierdie behoeftes moet sterker in jou IDP tevoorskyn kom, want jy moet in 'n gedagte hou, dis nie as daar 100 insette van individue, van almal af, baie van die goed, hoe raak dit in terme van die prioriteite wat bepaal word binne 'n wijk, en dit is die prioriteite wat geakkommodeer word in die IDP. So my voorstel sal wees dat wanneer ons nou die proses begin, en ek dink dit was ook die gesprekvoering gister gewees, dat ons moet klem lê op inligting wat nie is nie, want ons het verwys in die kommentare, dit is nie vervat in die IDP nie, daar moet 'n proses gevolg moet word, daar moet meer insette verkry moet word, want iemand in 'n gedagte hou, 'n begroting is 'n plan vir die volgende jaar. En ou kan nie net gaan sê, hier's inligting, ek inkorporeer dit en daar's nie eens 'n plan nie. Dit wat in die begroting is, moet realisties wees, dit moet implementeerbaar wees, sodat daar 'n proses kan wees dat help nie ons inkorporeer dit in die begroting nou wil ek begin beplan nie. So vir my die basispunt net is dat al hierdie of ek sal nie sê al hierdie goed nie, maar 'n groot gedeelte van dit is belangrik dat wanneer dit kom by die IDP om die nuwe prioriteite te bepaal, dat daar sterker klem moet gelê word op hierdie areas wat uitgewys word en ek stem daarmee saam dat daar klem gelê moet word sodat daar 'n proses in plek gekry kan word. Ek kan ongelukkig nie vir u sê die persentasie nie. Want party is nie noodwendig net 'n inset nie, dis 'n kommentaar. En iemand in gedagte hou, dit wat inligting is, moet jy kan sê, wow, dit is wat ons inbring of dit is wat ons nie inbring nie. Van die gevalle wat baie spesifiek was, baie direk was, het ons 'n verandering gebring, soos byvoorbeeld die toiletstrukture. Daar was 'n behoefte wat meer is, maar ons het 'n bedrag verhoog, maar ek dink die MM se voorstel is, kom ons gaan assesseer, wat is die behoefte, wat is die huidige stand van hierdie goed, en gaan bepaal waar nog opgesit moet word, sodat ons gestruktureerd hierdie goed kan beplan en in plek kan kry. So, ek kan nie vir jou presiese persentasie gee nie, maar baie van die kommentare het half te doen met die bedryf, en ek dink dit is wat ons probeer, en ek dink wat die burgemeester ook genoem het, dat wanneer mense gaan teruggaan, dat mense gaan sê waar hierdie goed is. Ek wil nie net hê, dit moet 'n geval wees, dit word in jou bedryfsbegroting ingebring, of ons sê dis daar nie, dit raak weg nie. So uit daai kommentare, en ek dink die burgemeester het gewoonlik 'n plan, wat hy byhou, gaan ons gaan sê, hierdie is dit, en dit moet in die bedryf wees, waar reflekteer dit in die bedryf, en as dit is, wil ons 'n tipe van implementeringsplan hê, kostes hê, en al daai goed van hoe dit uit die bedryf uit gedoen kan word, en waar u julle as raadslede, dis dan u oorsigrol om seker te maak dat daai projekte of wat ons gesê het kom uit bedryf het, dat dit dan wel geïmplementeer kan word. So dis net die kommentaar, maar ek kan ongelukkig nie vir u sê uit die kommentaar uit as 'n persentasie van hoeveel geakkommodeer is nie. Al wat dit sê dit moet oorweeg word, dit wat ons kan inbring, bring ons in, en moontlik dit wat reeds vervat is, gee ons net terugvoer en sê dit is reeds vervat in die begroting. Maar ja, dit is maar al wat ek wil sê. Dankie meneer Speaker.
Dankie meneer van Biljon.
Thank you, Speaker. I don't want to repeat my colleagues have just highlighted with regard what needs to happen on this budget of Cape Agulhas. It's a challenge that all of us been elected to serve the community outside there, but we don't do that. It's just a lip service. Having the budget been presented even to us and having Speaker 140 comments, it really raised a concern. Raised a concern for the past 5 to 6 years that so many things didn't happen the way that community, the taxpayers, would like even to have. Because as we're sitting here, we received the money from taxpayers. And some of them that commented, those comments need to be respected. So it really shows the developmental part, even the development within Cape Agulhas didn't take place. That means there's a failure for the leadership, leading municipality for the past 5 years. The whole thing that has been raised by the ward councillors really is a concern for the community. If that was never been attended, and it's never been attended, even the rest of the budget, that means we're just sitting here for the sake of being sitting here, having the meeting, say that here's a budget, we just approve. So even those comments, even yesterday at the workshop, there was no time even to go through 140 comments, where you have other things even to look at. Because we're just in a hurry, let us do this and that and that. So let us respect and also do what we're supposed to do. So from my side and even the ANC, we are reluctant even to support whatever that is presented in front of us, if the other things have not been addressed. Like the other councillors been highlighted, all these things. It's a challenge. When we are here, the services that Alderman was referring, the services on top compared to the services down there, it's not the same. I know the service that they pay different municipalities is not the same as well, but those are the human beings that will be treated equally.
Thank you. We take note. Any other comments, inputs? Councillor?
Thank you, Speaker. I want to thank the CFO for distributing the document with 140 comments on which we all had the opportunity to read, which is disrespectful to our voters and residents if we never read them. And to thank him for availing himself and for Sean yesterday, where we all had an opportunity and sat in this council chamber to debate these things and for ward councillors to come and bring the requests. So we had that opportunity yesterday. Thank you.
Okay, we don't have to debate it too much. Before I also thank the CFO, I've got two comments that I raised yesterday that I would like you to note. Sean at the back there, I think you know that I prefer to 4.1 in the electrical services. Will you, Marius, will you just make a note that we want that to be relooked? That's the Suiderstrand infrastructure contribution, the $8,050 with tax included. Sean knows about it, CFO knows about it, so will you please have a look at that, and we can discuss it at the next council meeting, please. There was another one that was also mentioned, and that is the 7.1, and that is for Waarnhuiskraanstruis by Agulhas in Suiderstrand, and that's that sewage development contribution that we pay, and it's quite an amount. It's 13,500 Rand once off. And the comments are, you collect the money, but when do we get the sewage system? And that might explode in our faces soon. So we better have a good look at that and take a decision as council. Please, CFO. A number of things were mentioned, and I won't comment on all of them. But what I do want to say is, if you say you want to do more with less, then that's a hell of a challenge. I think if we say we do more with the same, then we might get there. My personal experience is that we will only do more with the same staff that we have if we motivate them and if we train them. If we keep on knocking our staff, we're not going to get anywhere fast soon. We will have to keep our staff motivated, and we will have to train them, and we've got a good budget for that. So to scare people with 41%, I think there's no alregery. I think we must respect our staff, and I think we must motivate them to do more, as we say, with the same amount and even with less. That's my personal comment. Thank you, Hannes and Sean and the team. May I ask a question that you must now put up your hand and swear? Are we compliant? Are we within the legal parameters submitting the budget? Are we kosher?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned on the 31st of May, we had a bit of challenges. It's not only us, there are a number of other municipalities in the country with the same challenges. But one of the requirements in terms of the SCOA, the Municipal Standard Account, the way how we very much directed and guided by National Treasury and regulated how we need to do it, and there's a number of rules within the system. And I'm proud to say, and I must commend Sean and his team, I normally, we had it almost ready during the draft, but we couldn't really, when we look at our figures in terms of the balance sheet and our cash flow, it was not realistic. We still had some work to do. And when he presented the information now, I can tell you we are 100% compliant, even in terms of our reporting to National Treasury. None is outstanding. And I think that's hours of work in Sean's office where they had to work and make sure that we apply the rules. We're not always in agreement with National Treasury, but we have to ensure that we can deliver a document like this. And I can tell Council, we shouldn't, I shouldn't or well, wouldn't submit a budget if I know in my heart it's not realistic, it's not accurate, it's not complete. And I can assure you, I think what's presented here today, it's from the system. We are 100% compliant, and I know people still, municipalities still bypass past the system, but eventually it haunt you if you're not really doing that way. But if you look at the figures that's presenting, I can say it's accurate, it's complete, and it's aligned. I think I'm not saying it's 100%, because we can make mistakes, you know, but what is submitted here, I can guarantee you this is what we worked on, and we can account for everything. Then in terms of the funded budget, yes, it's one of the key requirements. Even if council approve it and it's not funded, National Treasury, Provincial Treasury will refer it back to council. They will not accept it. So that is definitely that I can say yes, it's a funded budget. And yeah, that's all what I want to say. You know, I know we all had struggles over the years with SCOA. It's now for 5 years, but it's not something that you develop once off and it's there. Every year there's new versions, you know, where they make changes and they apply new rules. And I mentioned, it was mentioned in the SAI meeting with Provincial Treasury, we as municipalities are key stakeholder in this MSCOA compliance thing. And the unfortunate part is there's no representative from one municipality when National Treasury decide on these things. It's between National Treasury and the vendors. And then they will come to the municipalities, they will say, this is how you need to do it. And this is where we start, sometimes where we differ. And I pledge to them to say, listen, at least get some representatives from local government on that body as well, not to prescribe or, you know, derail everything, but that you can have the people who are the practitioners who apply it and who have the difficulty to apply it, that you can receive their input before you make decisions on that one. And I'm not negative. I think SCOA, it's something good. It's there already. If you can look the kind of reports we can extract, if you can already look, you know, the questions asked, where do we spend our money? Where are we spending the money? MSCOA allowed you to do that. So we're not negative about it, but surely it's an ongoing thing, you know, and hopefully we will get to a stage where there will be no new developments and changes on a regular basis. Because every time if there's a change, it's a system change. It have a lot of things that impact on that. But no, I'm proud of what Sean and his team did, really. And I think when you're looking at our compliance, you're looking at the way how we submit without errors and all of that, there are many rules and validations that you had to gone through. And we already tested it and it went through. But it's now the first time that we can say, if you push that button, you draw that report and you submit it to National Treasury, because immediately after this meeting, if Council approves the budget, we will be able to submit it. In the past, you had to work through other things and then you submit it. They normally gave you 14 days. Now they want it the day if Council approved the budget, the next morning it must be submitted to them. And now we will be able to do that. So that's what I want to say. I think in terms of, you know, what is submitted in front of Council, I'm happy with the information, you know, in terms of accuracy and completeness.
Thank you, Hannes. Keep up the continuous improvement, the Kaizen principle. That's what we will have to do. Continue to improve. And we as council and supporting management, the MM and management will have to make sure that we get the biggest bang for our buck with this budget, and really be on top of it, because we need to. We have to make the most of it, and I think we're going to. If there are no other inputs or questions, then I would just like to say, Hannes, from my side too, congratulations, thank you, and keep up the good work. And thanks, Sean, for supporting the CFO like you do. We're proud of you. You know it. And believe in that old saying that you can't keep a good man down. So you will just grow and grow, and we will follow your what's the word, success and growth for sure. Say again. Trajectory. Yes, we will certainly do that. But thank you, guys. All right. If we can now get to the point where we get proposals for the approval of the budget, then that will be great. I've got a proposer, Councillor Donald, and a seconder. I've got two hands, but I think let's give the councillor from Struisbaai the opportunity. So, Councillor Olwager. Then that concludes that one.
Speaker, though maybe has been resolved and also approved the budget by the council, seconded, whoever had been seconded. I'm raising that concern again, but before I do that, I will just concur with you, the appraisal that should go to the department. You know, when people are doing excellent work, they need to be applauded and be appreciated what they are doing. Yeah, I'm referring to that. But when other departments are failing to do what they're supposed to do, we are going to sit with this dilemma that we're sitting even here and repeat the same thing that we're saying something needs to be done. So I'm saying for them, even the director and other officials within that department, and Sean, I know he couldn't sleep sometimes when I met with him different times. He's really working, and thank for the mentorship that he's receiving from the director. But in principle, we as the ANC, we don't support even whatever that's been drafted in front of us. So those are the comments that we'd like to have on the budget itself. So though maybe it's approved, there's nothing that all of us we can do in that regard.
Thank you. It's noted by the scribe. Can I now continue to point number 4? No, 5? In the absence of Abdulaziz, the Denmark DFC Scholarship for Solid Waste Management and Technology. He applied and he was accepted, and he wants to go to Denmark. Is invited to go to Denmark from the 1st to the 19th of August, not costing us money, except for the fact that he won't be here. But that's about the total cost. The detail is there, page 1 to 5 is all the annexures to see what he's going to learn, and that he will come back and apply. And then the management recommendation reads that council note that Mr. Jacobs was accepted to participate in the NIDA Fellowship Center Scholarship for Solid Waste Management and Technology in Denmark from 1 to 19 August. Can I get a proposal for that? Thank you, Mayor.
Oops. One addition that council also approved the paid time off for that period. That is not going to be.
Yeah, well, if excuse me, we take for granted that that's part of it. So we accept that. So dis nie vir ons koste nie, maar vir die 18 dae wat hy weg is, gaan hy betaal word sy salaris soos normaal. So dis die kontribusie wat ons maak in hierdie oefening om hom oor te stuur, soos wat ons met enige iemand anders sou gemaak het. As dit nie in sy veld was nie, dan sou ons gesê het, jy kan die tyd afkry, maar jy sit verlof in. Maar in hierdie geval sê ons, fine, you can go, we won't penalize you. Is that okay? Can I get a second? Councillor Olwager again, voor jou, Johan. Raak nou 'n bietjie oud, nee, jy moet vinniger jou hand raak staan. Dankie raadslede. Bepaling van reserveprys, Truisbaai Industrieel. Julle weet dat ons 7 erwe daar het wat ons wil verkoop. Ons het die geld nodig om diens te lewer. Ek wou net kommentaar lewer wat net ook gesê is. Ons moet net altyd onthou dat dis maklik om te sê ons wil nog hê, maar dit jaag jou tariewe op. So die balancing act is the one that we always have to consider. And if you want to, or if you have to defend yourself to public, just remember that you have to say, we have to balance it. We can do it, but it's going to cost us. And what do you want? Kort skanne of lang verdriet? Van dis omtrent jou keuse. Maar goed, die 7 erwe daar sê, daar is 'n voorstel dat as 3 opsies, en ek vermoed ons gaan vir opsie 3, maar dit is julle keuse. Enige vrae, enige kommentare, of kan ek maar lees wat die bestuursaanbeveling is? Julle het dit gelees, dat die raad kennis neem van die openbare veiling op die 22ste Junie, ons het ons sterk adverteer oral sover ons gaan, dat die oordrag van die erwe so spoedig moontlik sal geskied, dat die koopooreenkomste binne 7 dae deur die afslaer aan die raad oorhandig word, dat opsie 3 as 'n reserveprys vir die genoemde erwe oorweeg word, ons wil die maksimum kry vir die grond uiteraard, en dat die gewone veilingsvoorwaardes soos ooreengekom van toepassing sou wees. Is dit korrek so? Raadsheer?
Ja, ek het nie probleem met opsie 3 nie. Ek het net 'n probleem die kommissie wat die afslaer ontvang. Sal ek lyk om by te sit by opsie 3.
Wil jy die ek weet die vraag reg verstaan? Is dit 17?
Goeienaand, so.
Die munisipaliteit het 'n tender uitgesit vir die auctioneering services, vir die auction word hierdie service provider hanteer. Die service provider sal omtrent 3 jaar gelede aangestel en hulle kommissie is 4% van die verkoopprys. Maar hulle het ook
deel kom van opsie 3 se prys. Die uitgawe moet gedeel word tussen hy 7. Die advertensiekoste, maar dit sluit dis die hele 5%, dit sluit alles in. So dit is wat ek eintlik bedoel.
Is jy gemaklik daarmee, MM?
Ja, so ek is nog nie seker, maar Raadsheer Jantjies, wil jy sê dat die opsie 3 moet ook die kommissie van die afslaer insluit? Dit is wat u wil graag hê moet.
Dit is ons prys wat ons wil hê wat daar staan.
Ja, ek was ja. Okay. Nou dit is ek dink teenstrydig met die tender. Ja,
Ekskuus meneer die voorsitter, speaker. Ja, in die verlede hoe dit gewerk het, gewoonlik is die koper verantwoordelik vir die betaling vir die kommissie. So as die erf vir 100 000 verkoop word, dan kry die raad 100 000. Die kommissie gedeelte aan die afslaer, dit word gewoonlik deur die koper dit word deur hom betaal, dis addisioneel tot die kostes van die verkope. So dit is nie wat die munisipaliteit dra nie.
Ja, want so ek sê, dit staan nie, dit is hoekom ek, dankie.
Ek kan verkeerd wees van Marius kan my sê, maar in die verlede weet ek, dit is hoe dit gewerk.
Meneer die Speaker, ja, die koper betaal die kommissie. En dan het ons gesprek gehad oor as die raad nie die reserveprys van opsie 3 kry nie, kom het terug raad toe vir 'n verdere besluit van die afslaer se kant af of gaan ons vir hom die geleentheid gee om te onderhandel. Met ander woorde, in daai geval dat ons in totaal 6 miljoen wil kry, as hy vir een erf meer kry en vir die volgende een minder, bly die prerogatief by die afslaer of is dit die reservepryse wat die raad dan vas bepaal, soos in opsie 3 wat voorgestel is?
Goed, burgemeester.
Precies wat ons net wil duidelikheid kry en wat ek net wil insit gelewer. Dit is nou die reservepryse. Ons moet dit onthou dat 'n prys word baie keer bepaal deur aanvraag. Is daar aanvraag? En as daar aanvraag is die pryse beter. Op hierdie oomblik is eiendom floreerend in daai deel. Maar ons moet nie vergeet nie, as ons hierdie verkoop, wat 'n effek het gaan hê op daarna. Dis nie meer dan net erwe wat alleen nie. Dan gaan dit gebou word, daar gaan ondersteuning wees, daar gaan werksgeleenthede geskep word, terwyl die bouwerk aan, en daar's ook permanente werksgeleenthede. En dieselfde wat ons gemaak in 'n pier, toe ons daai erwe sou verkoop het daar in 'n pier, want hierdie is reservepryse, so wil ek sê wat Marius het gesê, een mag miskien laag wees, ander een mag hoër wees. Dieselfde was ons dat waarteen ons het die vorige keer gewaardeer het, of die reserveprys, en waarteen verkoop was. So ek dink ons moet dit oorlaat in die afslaer om te bepaal. Dit is ten minste rondom dit. Ons gaan nie terugkom as daar 5000 gaan verskil is op 'n erf nie. Want ons wil ekonomie wil ons begin laat optel. En dit is hoe ons ekonomie gaan stimuleer deur die bates en kapitalis.
Ons is daarmee eens, is reg so, raadsheerantjies?
Ja, Speaker, jammer om te sê dat ek nie eens is. Ek wil sê, Speaker, dat ek meen 3 van die 4 erwe kan vir ons, mits daar al goed agter die skerms gebeur het vir die veiling, ek weet nie. Maar 3 van die erwe kan ook al vir ons die 6000. Nou, hoekom moet ons nou 7 verkoop as ons 3 dit kry? Ek meen, dan het speel ons mos vir 'n Kersfees met die raad se grond. Wat dit kos ons mos niks as dit terugkom na die raad toe nie. Ek meen, dit is...
Verstaan ek reg?
Dit is my gevoel. Ek meen, dis die reserveprys, laat ons dit opveil. En as ons dit nie kry nie, dis daarom baie snaaks. Ons het ander grond baie meer gekry, dat ons nou die skielik so ek weet nie, ek ryk iets wat... So, laat ons die goed opveil, laat die man die goed opveil, en as ons dit nie verkoop, kom ons dit terug.
Ek dink, meneer Speaker, ekskuus as ek mag, die erwe wat ons by Napier gehad het, daar was ook 'n reserveprys op, en dit was, want die wetgewing bepaal dat met 'n markverwante prys verkoop word. En wat ons gewoonlik na gekyk het, is wat is in ons huidige waardasierol gewoonlik bietjie laer is, en ek weet Marius het gewoonlik dan nou nog waardasies aangevra wat dan die markprys was. Maar jy sal in gedagte hou, so 'n paar jaar terug by Napier was daar erwe gewees, en die afslaer het teruggekom gesê, dit is die aanbod op daai erwe gewees, maar die aanbod was laer as dit, en die raad het besluit, ons gaan nie daai erwe verkoop op daai tydstip nie. So dis wat raadslid Jantjie sê, stem ek saam. Ek bedoel, daar is 'n reserveprys en dis met 'n doel daar. Indien ons nie daai gelde dan kry nie, dan moet dit terugkom. En ek dink dit is belangrik met hierdie tipe van erwe wat ons verkoop, dat dit nie net 'n erf is daar vir ontwikkeling nie. Ek dink Frans wat het nou net ook daarna verwys dat ons moet gaan kyk as 'n verkoopsooreenkoms dat jy al soos 'n bouklousule binne 'n sekere tydperk moet probeer dit ontwikkel. Want dit gaan dit stimuleer as wat dit ou die koop en dit lê daar en oor 2 jaar dan verkoop hy dit weer. En as gevolg van die vraag gaan dit miskien dalk weer op. So Dit is maar net 'n opsie, maar ek dink wat raadslid Jantjie sê, as hy nie die reserveprys haal nie, kom dan wat is die hoogste bod? En dan kan die raad nog steeds besluit daaroor of hy dit aanvaar of dan nie. Want baie keer met hierdie tipe van goed, dis mos maar 'n gewillige koper-verkoper. Wat is jy bereid om te betaal? En wat die burgemeester nou gesê het, gewoonlik die vraag bepaal die mark. Jy weet, hoe groter die vraag, hoe hoër gaan die prys wees, uiteraard. So, maar laat 'n mens net kan gaan kyk aan die hand van dit wat kom. As dit nie haal nie, dan net kom met die hoogste bod en dan die raad die opsie om dan te sê hulle aanvaar dit of hulle aanvaar dit. Ek weet dit sal gewoonlik binne 'n sekere tyd moet geskied. Ek dink laas was dit ook soos 'n tipe van 'n spesiale vergadering.
Net vir agtergrond. Ek amper gedink ek Hannes gaan verskil, maar Hannes het dit mooi verduidelik. Want ja, toe Hannes begin praat van 'n pier, toe wil ek gevra waar sit 'n pier? Maar gelukkig ek weet waar sit 'n pier. Jy kan nie die twee vergelyk, wil ek gesê, maar ons praat nie daaroor nie. Wat ek wil sê is, jy weet, ons weet daar's 'n behoefte. Daar's 'n behoefte vir industriële erwe op Struisbaai. Maar net so weet ek ook, ons gaan dit verkoop, nou die 22ste, ek steun dit, maar ek weet ook vir my siel is nie die regte tyd nie. Derek moet sê, of ek die waarheid praat, die regte tyd is Desember om my, maar ek steun laat ons het Junie maand verkoop vir die mense, maar dit belangstel aan. So ek kan vir jy sê, as ons 3 of 4 erwe nie gaan verkoop kry nie, en ons sit dit weer op 'n veiling, Desember gaan ons baie beter doen. Dit noem ek maar net, maar ek ondersteun wat hulle sê.
Dankie Raadslid Jantjies. Ek dink as ons die bemarking reg doen, dan sal die veiling 'n sukses wees enige tyd van die jaar. Maar daar is soveel behoefte dat ek dink nie Daar's te min, jy's reg. Daar's nog 7 wat weer later weer verkoop word, maar ons moet eers die infrastruktuur klaar maak en hulle vorder fliks met daai pad in die infrastruktuur. Maar kom ons aanvaar nog burgemeester net.
Nee, ek dink dis 'n hele idee. Die reserveprys is daar, maar ons moet, jy weet, as jy kyk, as ons praat van 'n reserveprys en as ons praat, ons kry nie die prys nie, dan praat ons R100,000 en minder of meer. Nou, dis nie die prys nie. Maar as ons praat van 5, dan ons die afslaer, hy onderhandel met die koper, luister nie, maar dis die reserveprys, onderhandel en sê okay, R5,000 of R4,000 of 5 of 10. Men dit is nie iets waar ons dit moet terugbring raad, dis my idee. Maar as dit 100,000 soos in 'n Pier se geval was. Dit was 'n geval wat ons gesê het, ons gaan dit nie verkoop op baie stadium nie. Dankie.
Dankie raadslede, 'n voorstel vir die aanvaarding van die bestuursaanbeveling. Dankie. Ja, dit sal deel wees van die voorwaarde. Ja.
Dat dit terugkom.
Ja. Marius, jy het hom so.
Wat nie verkoop word.
Ja, absoluut. Deputy Meyer, dit seconded. So
Jy het hom so speaker, so ek gaan opsie 3 as die reserveprys vir die genoemde erwe oorweeg en indien die reserveprys nie behaal word nie, sal die afslag die aanbod terugbring na die raad.
Absoluut, soos altyd. Dis reg. Sekondant het ek nog nie gekry nie. Councillor Donald het gesekondeer, baie dankie. Kom ons hoop ons kry 'n lekker aantal mense wat daar kom koop en dit toe soos die burgemeester vroeër gesê het, dit gaan eintlik oor wat hierna gaan gebeur as die erwe ontwikkel word, want dis eintlik waar die groter spin-off lê in die gemeenskap.
Dit gepraat van die bemarking is baie belangrik. Ek ben soos wat Son verduidelik het, die auksioneery doen die bemarking, maar ons van ons kant op social media moet ook op ons kant dit adverteer dat mense dit kan sien. Dankie.
Bemark aan die mense wat geld het, Marius, dit moet jy noteer asseblief. Bring ons by die einde van die vergadering, net een aankondiging. Ek wil, daar's nog mense wat ons net vanmiddag vinnig moet bedank. En dit is Willem van Sail en sy span, wat op ons versoek tydig die stelsel ingesit het en dit gereed gekry het en hy werk, so ons dank ook aan hulle wat dit vir ons gedoen het. Hannes, jy sal dit aan hulle oordra asseblief, alhoewel Willem, as jy hoor, ons is trots op jou, is al wat ek wil sê. Dit is dan die einde van ons storie, so baie dankie, raadslede, bestuur En 'n mooi aand vir julle en almal daar buite ook, bly veilig.